Right. So just to review for folks who haven't been here, we're going to run through this really quick, but it's really part of the foundation of our class, so we're going to roll through this fairly quick. Those of you who were last week, hopefully it's a review, but it's like hammering it home, all right? So, you can read this in the handout that Yvonne gave you that has the picture of mind, body, and spirit. This one. All right, it talks about this a little bit, doesn't have the exact diagram, but you'll get the idea, okay? All right, so we are obviously made up of a body. That's what we see in the mirror. Don't you love my drawing? Can you see the body in the mirror? Okay.
In the mirror.
That's what you see, touch, smell, sense. That's what we physically see, right? We also have a mind, or some people call it soul. Mind, soul, and spirit. Okay, it's gonna be easier for us if we just call it the mind, but just know those two words are interchangeable. But it's really our will, our thoughts, our personality, our mind, all wrapped together, all right? Then we have our spirit over here. That's the part that God breathed into us and that connects with God. That's the part that makes the connection, all right? We as Christians have the most glorious benefit of knowing that the day we accepted Christ as our Savior, the moment we accepted salvation, this part of us was made perfect, was made complete, was brought back into union with God the way it was supposed to be, the way it was back in the Garden of Eden, okay? This part, they talk about getting rid of the old man. All things are made new, not will be made new, but are. That's the act of salvation, okay? We as Nazarenes believe that there's also this process of sanctification, right? That is where this perfect God Spirit, Christ renewing our spirit, where we work to bring that perfection into the rest of us. That's the process of sanctification. It's us opening the faucet, knowing that God communicates with this part of us. Okay. God communicates with our spirit. Our spirit actually, there's somewhat of a separation between our spirit and our minds and our bodies, okay? This is the part of us that God communicates with directly. Now it's up to us as Christians to determine and to decide and to learn how to open the faucet to let that perfect part of us that is given to us from God, that has been perfected, to let it flow over into our minds and our bodies, okay? Because they are connected. You ever get the butterflies in your tummy when you're nervous or anxious about something? Well, that was your mind affecting your body, right? You ever vomit when you're so worried you can't even see straight, or you feel like something's coming? Or get diarrhea when you know the world's upside down or something, getting ready for an exam or some big event? That's the mind affecting the body. But it goes all sorts of ways, and I'll try to make this quick, but those of us who went to Honduras, we watched this happen with Dr. Brian Dixon. When we had a lady come in who was beside herself, distraught, shaking, just an absolute mess. You wondered if she wasn't, like, we're not here to deal with psych issues, what are we gonna do? You know, she was so distraught. Her son had left months before that with a guide from Honduras who was going to take him to the United States to freedom. Do you remember this? The guide made it back, her son did not. The guide did not know where her son was. She came to the clinic. We kind of sat there for a minute as the silly Americans that we are, and the not so God-centered in our first thoughts, people that we are. And then it dawned on us, we need to pray for her. That's what we're here to do. We need to minister to these two parts. She didn't need help here. It was affecting her here. She was feeling very sick. But there was nothing we could do for that part. So we gathered around and prayed for her. And by the time we were done, her head was up, her shaking was gone, and she had a smile on her face. I was so grateful simply that joy was brought back into a situation where she felt nothing but worry and concern and absolute desperation over her son. It goes all the ways, okay? We can actually let God minister to us by opening that faucet, all right? How open that floodgate is up to us. And there's where we kind of get stuck. But God did not intend for us to be unwell. God did not intend for us to have the anxiety, the frustrations, the depression, the confusion, the upset that we sometimes do in our mind. And those things affect our health. Stress affects the immune system. We as nurses know this. You can watch as some people develop certain conditions based on the anxiety and the stress that they have in their mind. Or you can watch depression cause pain in a person. God wants to work through that. Now, am I going to sit here and tell you if you have arthritis, you haven't opened your floodgate? And no. We live in a fallen, sinful world, okay? There's going to be things that happen. But God says, I want to work with you to bring you as far into wholeness and wellness as is possible in this life. And there's more to it than what we're all experiencing today, including me, all right? So I'm in this process too. All right, so that's kind of where we start each week. Yvonne, do you mind handing out the first one? So here's what today's class is about. That was the quickest review of last week's class that I could do. Today, before we start a deep dive in the next couple of weeks on the body and on the mind and on the spirit and what we can do with what those areas of us really mean, I thought we'd start out with some of the things that you can do right now to get a jump start on making some choices that will affect your health. Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about today. Now, the list is not exhaustive, but it is long, and it is not intended for you to go home and do them all. What people say, well, what can I really do right now to make me, to push me a little closer toward health? The real answer is anything you choose to do that is beneficial to your body and that you're motivated to do. Anything you choose to do that's beneficial for you, that you're motivated to do. Anything. Not on this list, doesn't matter. Anything can be beneficial. But here are at least some of the things that we'll talk through that we can do. Like I said, this class is somewhat interactive, so as we go, we'll be doing a few things. I apologize now if we get out of hand. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so you'll see in here that I talk again about that. We'll talk about the faucet a lot. We'll talk about the floodgates. We'll talk about that faucet. And things that hinder us from opening the faucet a little more than we do. Because that even came up last week. Somebody said, what if I don't trust God enough to open that faucet? You better believe I understand that concept. You better believe we all do. We have learned over the course of time, either from personal experience, things that have happened in our world, lies that we believe in our own heads, that it's not safe to open that faucet. We will get nailed, we will pay dearly, it will not be safe, something will happen that I don't expect, I won't be able to control it, right? And I'm gonna leave it at a trickle, because that's safer, right? That's not where we find health and healing. All right, so as we start, again, don't get overwhelmed with the list. Do think about this though, and I underlined this in paragraph 3. Well, let me back up to the scriptural reasons for doing anything that we're doing here. It's the verse, God has given us everything we need for living a godly life. A godly life includes physical, emotional, and spiritual health. God's desire to have us healthy and whole matches our desire. We're sitting here because we have that desire, right? So our desire, God's desires are lining up. We're not asking for something that's out of line with His will here. I'm not sitting here asking for $1 million or a Cadillac. Right? I'm asking that God would bring me into wholeness in this life into health in this life. So that's where we're at today. All right, now, I'll refer to some of these as the low-hanging fruit. Everybody know what that means? The things you can grab real quick as we go? All right. But as you can read here, and I've underlined it, it takes prayer, because we're going to ask God to join us in these endeavors, not just do them on our own, because do you think we're going to be successful if we don't include Him? Well, you've probably experienced the fact that no, we aren't. At least I know I have. It takes prayer and 3 to 4 weeks to change any behavior into a habit. So pray about which things on the list, or come up with your own, which ones to start, and then rely on God for the persistence to keep it going. Okay? We're going to rely on Him for our interest in even making a change. We're going to rely on Him for the strength to put it into play. And we're going to rely on Him for the persistence to make it 3 to 4 weeks to get to a change. Okay? Sometimes we can't even create our own interest in making a change. We want to, but maybe we don't want to. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So sometimes you'll have to get up in a day and say, God, I don't even want to today. But I am humbling myself, and I'm putting my body, soul, and spirit right in front of you, right here, and I'm letting you have it. And if anything happens from these choices that I've made, this path that I'm choosing to do, it's going to have to be you today, because my head's not in it. You're going to have to bring your spirit to my spirit and move that through and help me. I need your help for this. And it will be amazing if you pray that prayer and engage your heart, your mind, your spirit in that. God is faithful to do that. Because again, we're not asking for something that He doesn't already want for us, right? Our will is lined up with His. All right, so let's go into some of the things we can do. First one on the list is practice daily meditation. We've already talked about that a little bit. We practiced it, okay? Again, we referenced that practicing daily meditation, and that's anywhere from 3 minutes to 15 minutes. Some long-term people, some people who do this a lot do 30 or 40 minutes. I don't think I could sit still that long if you paid me. So I'm at the 5-minute mark. But it really does make a difference, okay? And again, we talked about how to do that. And part of what we're doing is bringing our mind into focus, okay, on what's happening in our body, but also saying, God, I'm open to you. You know, a lot of times I will do this and say, Lord, if there's something you want me to know while I'm clearing my mind, will you just make it evident to me? You know what I'm studying, you know what I'm thinking, you know what I'm doing in life, and I just want to quiet myself for these 5 minutes. And if there's something you want to speak to me, I invite you to do that. Help me as this spiritual slow learner that I am to be quiet long enough to hear you. And you will be amazed at what you think is just a thought coming into your head, or something that God is speaking to you in that moment. The clarity that can come when you're clearing everything else out. Now, will these little thoughts come through your head? Oh, the grocery list. Oh, I gotta do this. Yes, just let it go. Push it aside. Just let it go. Don't beat yourself up over it. Just let it go. And start over. You know, just go back into it. There is no need, nor does God want us beating ourselves up over this. There is no place of failure in this. He just loves that we come and spend time with Him, with everything that we are, the good, the bad, and the ugly. He just loves that we're there. Okay. All right, so maybe that is on your list. I would love for that to be on everybody's list, regardless of what we're talking about tonight. I think that's one of the most beneficial things anybody can do. Who struggles with sleep? Anybody? I struggle. I want to sleep too much, but sleep, yes, okay. To get a good night's sleep, some of us have to work at it, okay? It just doesn't come easy. And what they find is if we create a pre-bedtime routine, meaning we're starting to shut lights off, shutting lights off and creating a dark environment actually boosts our body's natural melatonin. Melatonin is that chemical that helps us go to sleep and stay to sleep. Some people take melatonin because they don't produce enough, they know that it will help them. shutting the light, starting to shut lights off, starting to shut the TV off, the phone off, put down Facebook, whatever it is for you. Maybe a little reading, but not much. You know, you just want to stop, you want to slow down the engagement of your mind. You know, and I've also encouraged folks to, if you're the kind of person whose mind just races and races and races, maybe you need to jot down those thoughts. You need to have a little notebook by the side of your bed, and you just jot those thoughts down that are coming to you that you're worried you'll forget, or the things that are floating around your head. And then when you've written it down, say, Lord, I give you the list. Take care of it until the morning. I know the list will still be there. Lord, just cover it and cover me, and help these things not to stay on the page so that they don't creep back in my head. Lord, I'm giving you the list tonight. And if you feel the need in 20 minutes, you're laying there and you think of something else, fine. Write it on the list. Okay, God, I'll give you that one too. Or eventually you'll get good enough to where you'll say, Lord, I'm just going to give that to you. You don't need to get up and write it down. But for some people, it actually works to get up and write it down. And then just physically give God the list. Close the lid and it's his. Maybe some herbal tea. There are several herbal teas that help if you're a tea kind of person or a warm milk kind of person. A lot of people do that. It seems to help. Sleepy time tea is one of the ones out there that people really have some success with. I make an all-natural sleepy time tea. If anybody's really struggling and you want some of that, let me know. I'll bring it in. You can give it a try. Maybe a hot bath, or just winding down the bathtub. I don't have time for all that. But if I was really desperate, I suppose I would try that. And then maybe something like this soul space. I use it to kind of unwind and refocus so that I go to sleep with my thoughts on God. Not my thoughts on tomorrow, my thoughts on today, my thoughts on my issues. But that the last thought, hopefully in my mind, so that I have peaceful sleep, is that of Christ. Sleeping is not just so that you feel better in the morning. Now, we all know if you don't get a good night's sleep, you're not going to feel good tomorrow. The older you get, let me tell you, the more important that is, it seems like. But there are also things going on in our bodies as we sleep. A couple of nurses in here probably know this, but when we shut everything down, that gives our body actually time to work and heal and fix and detoxify and repair, all right? So if we're not getting good sleep, or we're going to bed anxious, guess what's still happening? You're still in this fight. You're still trying to clear things out instead of regenerating and healing and detoxifying and letting your body do what it should in the night. Cellular repair happens during sleep. Our minds require good downtime to function. It wasn't that God just decided, oh, I'm just going to let them sleep so that 8 hours of their day goes by, you know. No, there was a point in that. He knows that time helps our brain actually rest and regenerate, and that there are things that need to happen during that time. It's like the night shift at the hospital. There are things that happen at night because there's no time during the day, okay? Or you can think about, like at the grocery store, when do you think all the restocking happens? At night. Because they don't want to be in the customer's way during the day, right? So they're restocking at night. They're waxing the floors. They're cleaning, they're reorganizing, they're doing inventory. If they never closed, now you've got that chaos happening in the midst of everything else, right? So you've got to shut it down at some point for that to really work. So if you're not getting a good night's sleep, maybe this is on the list for you. Move your body every day. You can't do it if that one's not on the list, right? Now here's something interesting that I found out. I struggle, as is probably very apparent. I cannot do the whole 30 to 45 minutes of exercise every day. If it's every day and it's 30 to 45 minutes, I have failed before I've even gotten out of the gate, okay? Some of you do this, and thank goodness you do, all right? I can't figure it out. But what was very eye-opening to me is there are several studies out there that show that if you will just get moving 10 minutes at a time, a couple times a day, well, that I could do. 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there. You know, at lunch, I take a walk in the morning. I do some stretching and some exercise movement at night. Maybe walk the dog, who knows, park the car way far out when you go to the grocery store, something. If you will do that, that is just as effective. As a matter of fact, they found that people who did that actually stick to it a little longer and actually lose a little more weight. Interesting. Plus the things that you would do in 10 minutes are probably not as taxing on your body as the things that you might be doing in 30 to 45 minutes. Now that's not always true, but you can get the same result in those 10 minutes 2 or 3 or 4 times a day. That seems way more my speed. I don't know if it is anybody else's, but that's way more my speed, because if I sit in my chair too long, now I've got to get up and do something anyways. Poor Jan doesn't have that option. But I need to get up and take some laps, or, you know, hey guys, I'm going to go to materials management and pick up those 5 things that we needed. Oh, okay. Well, now I'm helping somebody and I've taken a walk. See what I mean? If you work at the hospital, parking will take care of that. At least first thing in the morning.
Park in the garage and walk to 50.
Yeah, that's all you got. So don't think that it just has to be that. Well, here it even says, 45 to 60 minutes a day. Start with 10. Any bit of this that you do is helpful. All right, and here's the one nobody likes, but really it should be way high at the top of the list. Get a complete physical. Now, I'm not talking, go to your doctor and say, will you just check me out? And then they listen to your heart and lungs and you leave, right? You have a little conversation, heart and lungs, and you're out. That's not what I'm talking about. Okay, and I even give the examples of things that a complete physical should include. We're talking, have they checked your feet and your legs for excess fluid? Have they touched and pushed on your feet and ankles to see if you're retaining fluid? Have they listened not only to your lungs and your heart, and maybe for more than 2 seconds, okay, really listened, but have they listened to your neck? For those carotid arteries that might be having some issues that are a sign that you might be at risk for a stroke. Have they looked in your eyes? Have they looked in your ears? Have they looked in your throat? Have they evaluated as much skin as you're willing to show them? Okay. I would recommend that you at least strip down to your skivvies on that one if you can comfortably figure that out. Have they checked that? Have they listened to your belly? Did they listen to your tummy? Have they listened for those gas bubbles moving through at a good rate? Have they felt your tummy to see if your spleen is enlarged? Are all the organs in there feeling okay? How's your liver? See what I mean? Have they made you follow their finger? That's a neurologic check. Have they made sure that you're tracking okay? Have they tested your reflexes? When was the last time you had your reflexes checked? Sometimes that's a screening tool for things like Parkinson's or other neurologic issues. All right. Did they pay attention to you walking in or walking in the room, or had you stand and bend over? Musculoskeletal issues there. Okay. Did they look at your nail beds, your nails, to see if they're healthy? Some doctors will even want to go so far as to see your tongue. Okay, I'll stick on my tongue. You can take a look at it all day. You may have to explain what you're looking for, okay? Because to be very honest, and this doesn't make it right or wrong, doctors don't have time for this. They really don't. They are pushed to the limit to get things done. They are doing mostly what we call focused exams, which is examining the complaint that you came in for. If you came in thinking you have an ear infection, you're going to get your ears checked. If you come in thinking you're doing pretty good, you're going to get your heart and lungs listened to, right? Maybe a little touch of the feet. That's about it. You want to explain that you want the kit and the caboodle on this one, all right? And if your physician does not, your provider does not have time to do that for you, you may wanna go find one who can. Now, don't be rude about it, you know, just say, when I come in, I'm asking if you can do, you know, full head to toe exam and let me know how things are going. If you haven't had that done in a year, a couple of years, I would recommend that you do that, because how do you know what your baseline is unless you go get that evaluated, right? How do we know? How do we know we don't have something else going on? Have they felt your thyroid? Do you know you have goiters? Do you know you have an enlargement? How would you know? Do you have enlarged lymph nodes? You wouldn't know unless somebody feels them and tells you. That's what they're trained to do. But you may have to explain it, and you may have to be very patient, okay? Because this is not what doctors typically have the time for. But this will create your baseline. They may also, hopefully, tell you what screening test you need. Is it time for your mammogram, a PSA, a colonoscopy, you know, whatever. Here's a stool card, go home and take that home. See where we're going? But you want to know those things, because now you have the knowledge of where do I sit. They've done some lab work. I know what those numbers are. I know what my physical exam is. Okay, now that I have this, now I know what I'm working with, all right?
Can I add something?
Yes.
So, if you have Medicare, you should get a yearly Medicare wellness exam. That is a free exam, and it includes everything Kathy's talking about, plus all of the screening.
If they do it, Suzanne.
Yeah, they don't do it.
If they do it.
For
They listen to the heart and look at the ears.
primary care
Yeah.
should schedule for a Medicare wellness exam, which is totally separate from any other thing you go there for. They don't really wanna talk to you at that point about, you know, an earache or whatever, that is part of a sick visit. But they should take you through, and they actually have, a lot of screening that they do with, individual testing of, I'm gonna give you 3 words, and in about 5 or 6 minutes, I'm gonna ask you to repeat those words. And there's a form that is filled out, that is your one free visit a year, through Medicare. Everybody should get them if you're on Medicare.
Now, what we've heard and found in some cases is that physicians don't go through all that, even though you're there for the Medicare wellness visit. Okay, so you have to be your advocate and insist. And if you're not getting that from your provider, and you've asked kindly and gone in with some grace and mercy, and you're still not getting it, you may want to switch providers. Okay, because that is what they're asked to do. All right. Eat more veggies, yay! This one I like, because we're not taking something away, we're adding something, right? Okay, let's not get all overwhelmed. You've probably heard people saying a plant-based diet is good. It is, it's phenomenal, it's wonderful, yay. Where do you start though? Okay, some people are like, I just don't like the vegetables. Okay, fine. Find one you do like. Yeah, find one you do like. Don't make it a potato. You don't get to choose potatoes or french fries. Find one you do like. Do you like tomatoes?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you like broccoli? Do you like carrots? Do you like celery? Will you eat carrots at least cooked? This is George Francis Boyle III I'm talking about. He will at least eat them cooked, okay? But he will eat veggies grilled. He won't eat them regular, but he will eat them grilled. If I throw something on the grill, put a little olive oil and salt and pepper on it, he will eat it. It's like it became something new. I have no idea what that is. But he will eat it. So I can throw Brussels sprouts on there. Whatever. I made, we'll get to some of this, but I'm experimenting with vegetables that I never grew up with. I grew up in Ohio. We're farm people. You get your meat and potatoes, right? I didn't even know what an eggplant was. Bok choy, what? So I go now to the farmer's market and I'll pick something up, something I've never tasted, never dealt with, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna see if I can figure out how to like this, and if not, then it goes off the list. But if I do, okay, maybe. I stared at an eggplant for probably 5 days, thinking there's nothing I can do with this that's gonna make any difference whatsoever. Until it started, and I thought, well, burying it in lasagna is kind of a cheat. So I finally found a recipe for baba ganoush. Has anybody ever tried that?
Yes.
Sounds so bizarre.
It's good with eggplant.
You grill the thing till it's down to mush, pull off the skin, add a bunch of stuff, and it's great. I'm like, I can eat an eggplant. Okay, I'm not gonna go to all that trouble very often, but